And good evening, fellow listeners and followers. Tonight is Sunday, March 24th, 8:25 p.m. This is Federico Lines of States Rights Radio and
Seth Hancock of Seth Hancock Reports. And tonight's episode, we'll be discussing two segments. Congress is banning things again, and law enforcement is at it again, obtaining more power than the power already stated. Obviously with Congress banning things, that's what they always do. And tonight we're talking specifically about the TikTok ban that has passed the House, has not been voted on in the Senate. I don't know exactly how it's going to go in the Senate, but my guess is it will get passed, and Biden's already said he'd sign it. And a lot of that is based off of just fear-mongering, and it's just another way for Congress to kind of say, hey, we've got power, we've got control over the rest of you, and it's obviously got some First Amendment implications, and like always, it's bipartisan. That's what when both parties are working together, look out. Your rights are going to be violated.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. The fabulous word of bipartisanship. What did we get out of that? We got the McCain-Feingold bill. We got the Patriot Act. So every time they use the word bipartisanship, they both sides working together. Our rights are being diminished. Our states' rights are being diminished, and our individual rights are being diminished. And it's all about control of the federal government. And, it's just like when Congress banned liquor production, liquor sales. Who's the one that, really was hurting at the most was the people. The states itself and the people were hurting because of a stupid ban passed by Congress. And again, I have TikTok, but, I really, TikTok it's got more productivity in the States than in China. This thing that, China owns it. China is the main owner because it's, China is a communist oligarchy, and it has communist factions. But yet again, I'm more scared of the NSA than I am of the CCP. And who opened Red China relations? The Republicans. Who was the one that, opened the red doors with Red China? Was Richard Nixon. When the Democrats opposed it, Republicans loved it, and now it's the old switcheroo. Democrats see the profit of this, and now Republicans hate it. Well, now Democrats was the ones who opened the red doors to the Soviet Union. Republicans didn't quite agree with it. Democrats loved it. Now it's the other way around. Democrats don't like the Russians, but Republicans love the Russians. So this is the nonsense that we get of this two-party system nonsense, this constant flip-flopping of, well, I did this, but you hated this, now it's the other way around. But TikTok is just a social media app. I use it. I really keep minimal information on my TikTok profile page. I do it from my own personal thing. I see no issues. I see more Trumpers on TikTok. Believe this, Seth. I see more Trumpers on TikTok than the liberals. So it's partisan politics. It's this tribalism of and now. But something else. Seth. One, I'm going to put this on. Then I would like to see what you think. They haven't said it's an attack on free speech on neither side. So remember when they were saying, oh, Twitter's banning you and Facebook is banning you, it's an attack on free speech. Isn't this an attack on free speech? Isn't this an attack on corporation? Corporation has First Amendment rights. So you see the constant bullcrap, the constant circus mayhem that's going on in D.C. that I just, it's so pathetic. I just tuned out and, I just see something else because I really don't care. It's stupid. It's asinine. I don't think the courts will hold into it. So I just think it's tribalism politics at its latest, and the one that gets affected is the people again.
Yeah, I think there's several aspects to look at this TikTok ban that they're talking about. Congressman Thomas Massey of Kentucky is one of the few congressmen who voted against it, and he described it as basically. A Trojan horse that's going to give the president power to ban a whole host of websites and social media platforms, because it basically gives the president authority to ban apps on your phones, which, this is always something you never want to do. You don't want to give presidents power, even if you're a Biden supporter. Trump might be our president in less than a year. Do you want Trump to have this power? And to Trump supporters, do you want Biden to have this power? You don't want to give power to presidents. I mean, that's what we should be fighting against, is less power to the government, and particularly the executive office, because Congress has abdicated its role in so many things, like declaring war. We don't declare wars anymore. We just let the president take us to war whenever he feels like it. There's many implications here. As far as China, I mean, the thing is, there are many owners of TikTok. It's got a lot of shareholders, and by the way, I don't have a TikTok account. I think people spend too much time on social media in general. So it's not like I'm a huge fan of it, but it's you can't stop people from having this. They'll ban TikTok today, and then they'll ban your favorite conservative website tomorrow. I mean, or liberal website, whatever it is. This is not how to deal with problems like that we might see with TikTok. And as far as China collecting data and everything, and there's a problem with governments in general collecting data and spying on us on a whole host of sites. I'm more concerned about my government spying on me than the Chinese government spying on me. And I think that's a big part of it. The neocons and the war hawks and everybody who love the big spy apparatus, they just have a problem with China cutting into their game. These American politicians want America to be the only one to spy on us. Banning TikTok is not the solution to those problems. It's reining in your government's power that can help alleviate those problems.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, you're right. I'm more scared of the NSA, the CIA, the FBI, DEA, ATF, ICE, DHS spying on me, because that's my government. I don't want my government. Number one, they shouldn't be doing that, because we have rights. We have Fourth Amendment rights. We have Third Amendment rights. So, they shouldn't be spying on citizens unless they've committed a crime. We haven't committed a crime, so there should be no spying on us. And number two is that, I really see no threat. Yeah. I enjoy social media because, I promote my stuff on social media because that's the new norm. So, and I see no issues having, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter. Oh, Twitter's owned by Elon Musk, so it's okay for Elon Musk and his little Tesla company to spy on me, but not China. It's ridiculous. It's this, sense of two-party system bullcrap that I'm just sick and tired of it every time. And I just don't understand why, as you said, we don't want to give this president this power, the executive branch this power. I don't want it under Obama. I never wanted it under Obama, under W, under Clinton, under Trump, under Biden. I don't want it. So here's another thing of executive power. If the court says that the executive branch, the chief executive of the federal government has immunity, that means that all presidents have immunity from prosecution when they leave the White House. So do we want that? Of course not. No president, while they're in office, yeah, they are immune from prosecution while they're in the White House. But when they leave the White House, they whatever they did before entry and after entry, presidents are just ordinary citizens and they are not immune to prosecution. And they shouldn't be immune to prosecution. So this immunity case that is going on in the Supreme Court taking it, I hope that it's going to be unanimous in favor of the Constitution and not giving this executive branch power, because then that will increase the size of the executive branch, of the federal government's executive branch, and we'll be in a crap storm here. So we don't want to give this power to the executive to ban citizens from entry, to ban social media apps or whatever. We really should not. And I just think that it really has to stop here. So I know that Rand Paul has voiced his opinion in the Senate floor about this TikTok ban. I know that one of my senators from Florida is saying that he probably was going to vote for it, Rick Scott. I don't know anybody. I don't know how Marco Rubio feels like it. But yet again, these senators do have a TikTok. I think Marco Rubio even has a TikTok account. So you can't be that hypocritical. So enough is enough. There's bigger issues out there that don't involve this stupid thing of banning TikTok. Now, I've seen on TikTok where, people say, hey, we've come together in the spirit of bipartisanship. And then people say, well, what? Did you solve world poverty? Did you solve this? No, we banned TikTok. That's it. That's the great achievement of this Congress. I remember when Congress passed a state right to work law. When they passed tax cuts, this is the great achievement of this Congress. Ever since 2001, this is a lame duck Congress. No Congress has ever been very successful. And quite honestly, this whole government has been a lame duck federal government. There's no move from anything. So I just think that it's futile and it's really not worthy to pursue. There's other bigger issues to pursue.
Yeah, it's just another effort to censor, and it's not even, it might not even be as much about China as it might be Israel. That's leading to this effort to ban TikTok. You have the Times of Israel wrote a piece about all the major U.S. Jewish groups are backing the bill to ban TikTok, and you had bipartisan representatives. You had Mike Gallagher, who's a Republican from Wisconsin, who said it appears that TikTok is allowing too much pro-Palestinian influence on it. And the same thing was said by Representative Raja Krishnamurthy, who's a Democrat. He's actually my congressman. Sadly, I never voted for him, but basically saying that what's going on in Israel and Palestine has really opened people's eyes to what's happening on TikTok. And of course, they're not disputing the information that's being put out, but apparently TikTok is not as censorious as, say, Twitter. Twitter, I know Elon Musk is this free speech hero, we're told. The censorship I keep seeing on Twitter, or X, whatever it's called now, is really just as bad as it was before Elon Musk owned it. And the question is, they're not even questioning whether or not the information is real or not. They're just saying, oh, this is so bad that you have people who have pro-Palestinian voices. Look, that's part of free speech. People have the right to be pro-Palestine or pro-Israel. They have the right to have opinions that differ from yours and mine, and we have to respond to it with our own beliefs, and we all need to be feel safe to speak our minds. And banning social media platforms is not helpful. It just makes everything worse. It divides us even more. But of course, me bringing up that Israel might be a part of the reason for the TikTok ban would get me labeled anti-Semitic, according to Ben Shapiro, who said anybody who claims the TikTok ban is related to Israel at all is anti-Semitic, which, even though they're saying it, even though these congressmen are out there saying this is part of the reason they're for this ban, but ultimately, this leads to a lot of questions about the First Amendment and free speech, and do we have a Supreme Court that will side with the First Amendment? I'm not sure. Especially, I wrote earlier this week about Ketanji Brown Jackson, who, in a case that's currently being heard by the Supreme Court, where basically the Biden administration was putting pressure on social media groups to censor content on social media platforms. And Ketanji Brown Jackson says she's worried that the First Amendment is hamstringing the government. Like, hey, lady, that's the whole point of the First Amendment. That's the whole point of the Bill of Rights, is to hamstring the government. This is to say, hey, government, you cannot do this. You cannot violate people's rights that we have listed here in the Bill of Rights. And it's just kind of scary to me that you have a Supreme Court justice who is so ignorant of the whole point of the Bill of Rights and our rights. She doesn't care about our rights. She's worried about the government being hamstring and not having power to control us. That's very scary to me.
Yeah, it is very frightening to hear those words coming from a Supreme Court justice. And, it's very similar to, again, I like to point this out. I mean, yeah, it's all about First Amendment. And, whether you're pro-Israel or pro-Palestine or anti-Israel or anti-Palestine, it's your First Amendment right. And I've said it multiple times on our show that, I may not agree with what you say, or you have said it, and I forgot who coined the phrase. I may not agree with what you say, but I'll defend everything, every chance I get for you to say it. I may not agree with many groups, but I don't care. I mean, you can spew this nonsense, whatever it is, so you call it whatever you want, and I'm just going to look the other way. And if there's no violence, if there's no from both sides, then more power to the power of the people and the power of the First Amendment. So it scares me that Supreme Court justices have this, and Ketanji Brown Jackson, who's she was born in the 70s and she went to school in the 90s. She's one of them that, was one of them that was brought up in this whole idea of social studies and social reform and social justice. And that really scares me because, for example, I mean, the thing is that the late Ginsburg, she was brought up in the era of civics lessons and all that, and yet she was a defender of the First Amendment. But then in a rare interview before she passed away, she was talking to Katie Couric, and she was talking about that people who kneel should be held in contempt. And I go, wait a minute, I may not agree. You may not agree with people kneeling. I know we've had this discussion, Seth. With people kneeling or sitting down and anthems or Pledge of Allegiance, but they can do. This is the United States of America. They have that right to do what they want. So for Tommy Lauren or Ruth Bader Ginsburg to have this attitude, it's an insult to the First Amendment. I don't, if Tommy Lauren or Glenn Beck wants to stand and sing the national anthem, I could care less. If I want to sit and take a nap, because again, I said this before, baseball bores me and I want to take a nap, that's me. I mean, nobody says, hey, the first inning is about to start. And I go, yeah, well, wake me up when it's over. That's my right to take a nap if I want to. So, or whatever. So it scares me that, this is the first time where the Supreme Court really has had contempt for the First Amendment. And that scares me even more, that, they're taking away our rights like that, or even hinting this censorship. So no one, the government should not be hamstring. We should not be holding allegiance to the government. We should be holding allegiance to the Constitution, plain and simple. The government is not the Constitution. We need to hold allegiance and hold the Constitution yay high, and that's the one we should sing praises to. That's the one we should sing a national anthem, is the Constitution, not to a flag, not to a song, not to an allegiance, to the Constitution. And the justices should know better.
Yeah, it just gets into if you're willing to censor people and ban certain things, you're actually unpatriotic. This is anti-American. It's things like let's take flag burning for instance. I don't particularly like that form of protest, but it is your right as long as it's your flag and you haven't stolen somebody else's flag to burn. I don't like it, but you have the right to do it, and if you want to stop people from doing it, you've become even more anti-American than the person who's trying to burn the flag, because it is free speech. It's your right, that's part of what America is supposed to be, is standing up for people's rights, whether you like it or not, whether you agree with how they're using their rights or not. You're supposed to stand up for people's rights, and that's the essence of what America was supposed to be. We talk a lot about how America has fallen away from the Constitution, which is why we need to talk about what the Constitution really means and what America was really supposed to mean. And banning, censoring, that's un-American. That's not what we're supposed to be doing. But it requires us to hold politicians accountable, hold judges accountable. Ketanji Brown Jackson saying, she's worried about the First Amendment hamstringing the government. I mean, people need to speak up, and I don't care if you like Ketanji Brown Jackson or not. It's just a very dangerous mindset that she has. That's not good for our rights.
You're right, and our next segment is also that violation of our rights. Is a local story that we saw, that I saw, and I shared with Seth, about 6 law enforcement officers from the great state of Mississippi, part of my Mississippi accent, that they arrested, I think it was 2 black males They took them into their home. They entered their home illegally without a warrant. They beat them. They sodomized them. They did horrible things. I think both of them are still alive, but they are, they did so much wrong in this. They did so much damage to not only to them physically, but to us as a nation in violating their rights. And when you violate someone's rights, you violate all our rights, because that would set a precedent. And we don't want that. We don't want law enforcement to violate. So I believe they were found guilty of these crimes, and I'm glad, because law enforcement is not the ultimate say in this. Law enforcement officers are there to protect us when a crime is being committed, or after the crime is being committed. They're here to search out the truth and the justice. They're not the executioners. They're not the magistrates. So when I see that type of arrogance in law enforcement, but again, because the federal government has given that right to law enforcement. And I would just like to read a quick quote from Justice William O. Douglas in Terry versus Ohio, that I think people need to understand that, because it's very serious. To give the police greater power than a magistrate is to take a long step down the totalitarian path. And that is so true. To give that power to police, whether it's stop and frisk, or to say, or they have the power to ask you any questions and demand questions. Not even ask you, demand. You're not a magistrate. The only one that has that power is the magistrate. You have the power to, if you want to arrest me, then you have to show the proof and arrest me, show the warrant and arrest me. But if there's no warrant, then you don't have a right to detain me. You don't have a right to ask questions or demand questions. And this has been going on for years. And this attack, particularly on white on black crimes, which these were white law enforcement officers, and they attacked two black Americans, two black individuals. This racial point of view, it's enough already. I mean, this ain't 1950s, this ain't 1940s or 1960s. We need to progress as a nation, that we're all equal under law. And if these individuals have committed a crime, then let it be proved in court, not at the side of them handcuffed and being beaten. That's not the court of law. If you have reasonable doubt that they've committed these crimes, then take them to court and let them prove that innocence or prove that guilt onto them. But police have we've discussed this issue several times, and I really want to let everyone know, police is not here to get this power. They don't have this kind of power. They never have, and they never will. And the Supreme Court needs to overrule that and give that power back to the individual, back to the Fourth Amendment.
Yeah, and in this case, I read up on it, and it all began with a neighbor who called the police to complain because this neighbor saw two black men were staying with a white woman, and that's the call. Two black men were staying with a white woman, and the police burst in without a warrant. This is egregious beyond the point. I mean, there's no crime that was offered. It was just that two black men were seen staying with a white woman, and they were legally there. And the police. And in this case, this is part of the problem we see, is that there's no accountability. In this case, there is accountability. These officers were found guilty, where they handcuffed the men, they beat them, they tortured them with toys. They basically sexually assaulted these men and used stun guns and poured milk, alcohol, and chocolate syrup over their faces, stripped them naked, made them shower together to conceal the mess. And this is just all for a call of no crime. No crime was even alleged. It was two black men were staying with a white woman, and that gets a call from a neighbor, and the police go in and do this, and they're part of they called themselves the officers who did this they called themselves part of the goon squad. Like, they go in, and I'd like to know how many Americans in their town have been violated by this goon squad. And this is just an egregious story. And again, in this case, there is some accountability now with these officers being tried and found guilty and going to jail. But how many stories are there like this that don't get accountability? And, obviously this has a racial angle to it, but we see these stories too often and it doesn't matter the race. It just happens too often. And we need to change the culture and the mindset of how we train police, because there's this idea that there's some type of authority over us. And the thing is, police have no authority over you unless you've broken the law, unless there's a crime that has been committed or you're accused of. And again, in this case, there was no crime ever alleged. It's completely... the police should have taken the call and said, well, I haven't heard you allege any crimes. We're not going to even go investigate this because you're not alleging any crimes. But instead, they go there, and without a warrant, they bust in and commence to assaulting these people. We need to have the understanding that police have no authority unless you've committed a crime, unless they suspect you of having committed a crime. It's really a mindset thing that we have to change in this country.
But even if the police and law enforcement officers suspect that someone has committed a crime, they don't have that right to be the magistrate or the executioner, to that effect. Where, again, these racially motivated attacks, I think I saw one from Tennessee, I think it was, where they tased a old white man. They tased. I think he was about to be evicted, and he didn't want to evict or something like that, and they tased him unfairly. And bottom line is, I understand. The bottom line is that, no matter what your skin color is, we all have rights, and we all have to respect them. I know that, people from the invisible empire think that blacks don't have rights, Jewish people don't have rights, Catholics don't have rights. Yes, we do. We all have rights. Even you have rights. Even you have rights to due process. And I don't want to take that due process away from those individuals from the invisible empire. I want them to go to trial. I want them to see the scum of the earth go to trial, because once you remove that due process from them, you're removing it from us, and I don't want that. I don't want them to have protective custody. Or the January 6th individuals. I don't want them to be in protective custody. I want them to go to trial. They don't have to say a peep. The defendants don't have to say anything. They can just keep their mouths shut and don't speak at all. They can take the witness stand. They don't have to take the witness stand. But at least, we get to see how they are, whoever they are. So I don't want, I don't want to lose that due process right and that right that we have, because then we lose it all. And I don't want that. We have in this country this due process situation where, we cannot allow them to give it to one but deny it to others. No, it's not privileged under law. It's equality under law and all equal under law. So, these individuals, whether black or white or Jewish or whatever, if they're suspected of a crime, then the law enforcement needs to follow up with what the just is, get the warrant, and investigate it thoroughly, and take them in, and don't beat them. If they resist arrest, if they really truly resist arrest, then, I understand that, law enforcement is a dangerous job. It's a very frustrating job. Trust me. I've handled frustrated jobs before, but no, it doesn't have to be that frustrating. It doesn't have to be that annoying. So, you can avoid that. So just know, when I saw this thing on TikTok, when I saw this video on TikTok and I shared with Seth, and I looked up the other crimes committed, I don't see it on color. I see that these people are being violated. Yes, they're black, they're white. It happens they're white, it happens they're Hispanic. But, I see them as citizens being violated, and this has to stop. And this is, again, with banning things or restricting things. Government cannot restrict this. Government cannot deny our rights, no matter how much Ketanji Jackson says. They cannot deny our rights.
Yeah, in the words of Martin Luther King Jr., injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. And that's why, when we see our fellow citizens having their rights violated, we should speak out. And police are not judge, jury, and executioner. They, again, in this case, what makes it even more egregious is the fact that no crime was even reported. He had, some neighbor who has some racially charged thinking that says, "Oh, I see two black men living with a white woman. That there must be a problem." Well, that's where the problem all started. So the police, in my opinion, didn't even have the right to even go to their home to begin with, because no crime was ever alleged. But even if a real crime is alleged, they can't just go in guns blazing. They have to do things called investigations. They have to do things called police work. And that's one of the things we've lost, is that that police don't even do police work anymore. It's I've seen it. I remember a story years ago that kind of opened my eyes to the drug war, and it was a no-knock raid, and the police got information from an informant, somebody who was arrested on a low-level drug possession beef, and they gave information about a drug dealer. And the police, they go in and they get the wrong apartment. They just bust down the door. They get the information from the informant, and then they bust down the wrong apartment door, and they shoot and kill the person who lived there, who was completely innocent. Well, the police didn't even do any police work. They didn't stake out the apartment to see if the guy who the informant said lived there fit the description. They didn't do anything. They just get the information and they go and bust down doors. You got to actually do police work. You have to actually go investigate the property and see if you see any evidence that suggests the informant's correct. But we don't get that anymore. We get police get information, and then they go in and they start busting down doors, and that's a problem. They need to do police work first, and gather intel and information before they start violating people's rights.
Yeah, that sounded like the Breonna Taylor situation, where they got the wrong information. They thought that they had drugs in that area. I believe the boyfriend was I mean, the boyfriend was up to no good. The boyfriend had a priors, but Breonna Taylor did not. And yet, I think they had the wrong apartment, and they just went on and without actually doing some police work investigation, police work due diligence. Where's your due diligence, for God's sake? So, this is, we've given, the federal government and public opinion has given the police way too much power. Either, protect the blue, defend the blue, Blue Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter, is this whole tribalism bull crap of a two-party system, tribalism. How about all citizens, regardless of race, matter? Our rights matter. Nobody questioned George Floyd's Fourth Amendment rights. Eric, the guy from New York with the cigarettes.
Eric Garner.
Eric Garner. Thanks, Seth. Eric Garner. Michael Brown from Ferguson. And the list is endless. Rodney King, for God's sakes, he was just high speeding on the highway, and police just knock him down and start beating the crap out of him. So thank God that we've had the first video camera cell phone that took down that beating, and yet it still continues today. And yes, you're right. If, in that event in Mississippi, if no crime is being committed, why are police even going there? Why is the operator saying, well, I mean, did you see weapons? Did you see anything? Did you hear screams, gunshots? I mean, if there's no such thing like that, police should not even be going to something like that. But again, I guess it's a little town in Mississippi. They don't have nothing to do. But yet again, do something else. Or do your due diligence and ask, did you hear a gunshot? Did you hear screams? Did you hear anything? But just to say that, our gayest two black folk is there with a white woman. I mean, okay, and your point is? So it's a lot of ignorance, I mean, I don't want to bring this out right now before my last point, but ever since Trump started moving into, in 2015 and 2016, we've seen a lot of racism rise up again. The people from Missouri with the guns, and a lot of crimes, a lot of hate crimes, racial crimes. I don't know if Trump had any movement, but I mean, this whole started with Trump moving in and this whole tribalism of Blue Lives Matter and all that. So, I mean, I could blame Trump for this. I could not blame Trump for this, but it really wasn't like this with W. Bush or with Clinton or, with I mean, we had OJ, but it wasn't bad as this. This is really worse. And, bottom line is, I don't trust the government, whether it's Trump in the White House or Biden in the White House. I don't trust either of them, and I definitely don't trust Trump. So, to bring conclusion to this, we've given too much power to the federal government and to law enforcement in telling us what to do, how to feel, how to think. This is, we have a right to think. We have a right to say what we want as long as there's no violence involved. So, in my last subject, my last thing is, we have a right. They have no right to take it away from us. And, speak out against any violation of that. And to law enforcement, to federal government officials, to whoever, we have that right, and you don't have that right to take it away from us.
Yeah, and that's really, for me, the real focus is just on, we need to change this mindset about, what police are there for. In terms of whether racism is on the rise or not, I don't know. I don't trust government data. I don't know how people define it, but what matters to me is I can look at an individual case and say, I look at the facts of this, and the police are absolutely wrong and should suffer immensely for, violating these people's rights. And that's what we need to have standards, and we need to understand what law enforcement's there for. We have this idea that law enforcement's there to stop crime from happening, which, if police are doing their job correctly, I think there will be less crime because people are going to jail for breaking the law. But ultimately, that's not really the job of police, because then you're setting them up as some type of minority report where they have to read minds and decide, is this person going to break the law soon or not? And that's not what we want. We want police to go out, when a actual crime has been committed, to go out and arrest them and do it in the most peaceful manner as possible. Yes, sometimes they resist arrest, and they should have authority to use some force against them. But we don't want them thinking force is what they should always be using. And we just need to understand cops should really just investigate and arrest people when they've committed a crime or are alleged to have committed a crime. But outside of that, the police have very little impact on your life. They should have very little impact on your life. But instead, I don't know about you, but my only experiences with police have always been them trying to extort money out of me because I broke some alleged traffic law. So, this is what police have become to be known for, is being tax collectors for the government, or being enforcers for the government, when they should be law enforcement and public servants to the entire public, not to the government. But yeah, it's a mindset thing that we really need to change in America.
Yeah, no, you're right. It really is. We really lost our perspective on what law enforcement is and what they're supposed to do. And now they've created really a sleeping giant, waking up to its demise, as Admiral Yamamoto called the United States after Pearl Harbor. And it is like a sleeping giant, and it's really awoken to create a lot of damage. And they have. And you're right. When police have stopped me, it's on a minor traffic infraction, but then they come up with outrageous fees. And I know I mentioned this before, just to point out, The Simpsons made a joke about that. On New Year's Eve, Homer Simpson is taking out the trash, and the chief of police, I forgot his name, comes up and says, the first lawbreaker of the year, and he goes, $1,000 running up your total. That's another fine. So, they stick it up to the little person like you and me, and they're public servants. They're not public masters. They're supposed to serve us and protect us, and not the other way around. So, just be alert on what the government is trying to do, and don't let them take away our rights. We all have rights. We all have equality. No one is privileged, and we need to respect all of them. All of them, because once they don't respect one, they will not respect for all. And I don't want that. So that's my last message. Seth, what's your last message on this topic?
Yeah, I just say, know your rights, exercise your rights, and do it peacefully. And I just want to say on police too, in general, I think, I've been pulled over several times in my life, and, more often than not, I've gotten away without a ticket. So, I'm not saying you get pulled over. Don't think that this cop is coming to abuse you or anything, but remain respectful as much as possible. but understand your rights, and if the police are violating your rights, that's when you have the right to stand up and exercise your rights and say, no, I'm not going to comply with unjust orders, which is why you need to know your rights and know when you have the right to say no and not comply. And I think a lot of police, in general, are just trying to do their job, and they're not trying to be this goon squad. But it would be nice if police, when these types of stories come out, take a much louder stand against bad cops like this. And overall, whether we're talking about TikTok bans or corrupt police actions, just know your rights and use them, and just stand up for liberty.
Yeah, and with that note, know your rights, speak your rights, but speak it peacefully. And on that note, we'll see you guys next Sunday. I hope you have a great week ahead, and to all a good night.
Good night.